Type Ollama with no arguments right now, and you won't get a help screen. You'll get an interactive agent that chats, writes code, and searches the web for you. That shipped last week, and it's only one of 3 things Ollama changed recently. These 3 updates aren't one changelog entry, even though most coverage lumps them together like they landed on the same day. They're 3 separate releases spread across about 4 weeks. Version 0.31 on June 29th sped up Gemma 4. Version 0.32.0 on July 11th replaced the bare CLI with an agent, and version 0.32.2, still a release candidate as of this recording, landed Blackwell GPU support on July 20th. I pulled the actual release notes and the merged PRs for all 3. So what you're getting is the real commands and the real quotes, not a summary of a summary. Here's the exact banner from the version 0.32.0 release notes. Before this version, the bare Ollama command just printed usage and exited with status 0. Now it launches glm 5.2.cloud as the default agent model and drops you straight into a chat session that can write and edit code, hit the web, and hand off tasks. If you had scripts or CI steps that called plain Ollama expecting a quick help dump and a clean, non-interactive exit, check them today. That behavior is gone in 0.32.0, and it'll hang a pipeline waiting on input that never comes. The fix is simple once you know about it. Ollama, run Gemma 4. Your prompt still runs non-interactively and exits clean, same as before. It's only the bare, no-argument invocation that changed. The old Codex app integration got renamed to ChatGPT. Ollama launch ChatGPT opens it, and Ollama launch ChatGPT restore switches back to your normal ChatGPT profile if you'd swapped it out for something else. Ollama launch on its own now shows only the most popular integrations instead of the full list. The rest are still there, just one level deeper in the menu. And if you're still running Code Llama, Qwen 2.5, Qwen 2.5 Coder, Llama 3.x, Mistral, Star Coder, or the base DeepSeek R1 tags as agent models, 0.32.0 prints a deprecation warning before it runs them. It still works for now, but that's the kind of warning that turns into a hard break in a future release. This is the part that actually matters for daily use. Version 0.31, which shipped 2 weeks before agent mode, made Gemma 4 faster. Ollama's own numbers say Gemma 4 generates tokens nearly 90% faster on the Aider polyglot benchmark, measured on an Apple M5 Max with NVFP4 quantization. If you already had Gemma 4 pulled before June 29th, that speedup didn't apply automatically to your existing copy. You need to re-pull it to get the MTP-enabled weights, which is what that first command is doing. Worth knowing before you pull, Gemma 4 isn't one model, it's a family. There's E2B and E4B for small and fast, 12B as the general default, a 26B mixture of experts build that only activates 4B parameters per token, and a 31B dense model if you want the full thing loaded. Each has an MLX tagged variant for Apple Silicon. The MOE26B is the one to reach for if you want 31B class quality without paying the full 31B compute cost on every token. The speedup comes from multi-token prediction. A small draft model proposes several tokens at once, then the main model checks the whole batch in a single pass and keeps whatever it agrees with. Since the draft model is a fraction of the main model's size, every correct batch means you paid for one forward pass and got several tokens out of it. It works best on code, where patterns like closing brackets and repeated variable names are easy to predict, and it auto-tunes the draft length as it runs, so it never regresses below baseline speed. By the way, I post these daily. Subscribe if local AI is your thing. Ollama also shipped a new EMLX matrix multiplication kernel alongside this, which is 2x to 2.5x faster for small token batches because it reads each weight block once and reuses it across all the tokens instead of rereading it per token. Both of these are on by default and don't change what the model outputs, only how fast it gets there. MTP isn't free everywhere either. On output, that's genuinely unpredictable, like creative writing where the next word isn't determined by pattern. The draft model's batches get rejected more often, and you fall back toward the same speed as before. That's exactly why the benchmark quote is scoped to Aider, a coding benchmark, and not a general purpose one. Ollama's blog didn't publish per token latency numbers beyond that 1/8 benchmark, and hardware varies enough that I'm not going to hand you a made-up number for your machine. Here's how to check the real difference yourself, using the CLI's built-in verbose flag. It prints the eval rate in tokens per second after each response, along with the prompt eval rate for how fast it read your input. Run the same prompt against the plain build and the EML-X build, diff the eval rate lines, and you've got a real number for your own hardware instead of someone else's benchmark. Version 0.32.2 is still a release candidate, not the stable build, but it's the one that adds Blackwell support. The actual PR is titled CUDA, Add CC 10.0 for Linux and CUDA v12, and its description says it adds compute capability 10.0 to the Linux CUDA v12 preset, so B200 class devices can use the CUDA v12 backend with drivers that don't meet the CUDA 13 minimum. Compute capability is NVIDIA's version number for what a GPU's silicon can actually run. Each CUDA release only supports a range of them, and until this patch, CC 10.0 sat outside that range for the older, more widely deployed CUDA v12 backend. In plain terms, if you're running a B200 data center GPU on Linux with a driver that hasn't been bumped to CUDA 13 yet, you don't have to force that driver upgrade just to get Ollama working. This is a Linux data center GPU story. It has nothing to do with consumer cards or the Apple Silicon speedup from earlier, so don't expect it to touch your gaming rig. The same release candidate quietly adds an agent skill system too, described in the PR as a runtime-owned skill catalog, with 2 ways to load skills, sharing one catalog and one instruction format. There's not much public detail on that one yet, so treat it as a preview, not a feature to build on. If your team runs Ollama on a fleet of Linux boxes, where the driver image is managed centrally and upgrades go through a change control process, this patch is the difference between waiting on a CUDA 13 driver rollout and running B200s today on the driver you already have. Here's what I'd actually do with this. If you're on Apple Silicon and already run Gemma 4, re-pull it today. The MTP speedup is free and doesn't touch output quality. Grab the 26 BMOE tag if you want the best quality per token trade-off. If you've got scripts or CI jobs that call bare Ollama expecting help text and a fast exit, fix them now, because 0.32.0 turns that into an interactive agent session instead of a clean exit. And if you're not running a B200 on Linux, skip the Blackwell news for now. Version 0.32.2 hasn't hit stable, and there's no reason to run a release candidate for a GPU you don't own. The pattern across all 3 releases is the same. Ollama keeps shipping real infrastructure work under a CLI that looks unchanged unless you actually read the release notes. None of these 3 things depend on each other, so you can adopt them separately. Re-pull Gemma 4 this afternoon, audit your scripts this week, and leave the Blackwell build alone until it's marked stable. 3 releases, 1 real thread. Ollama's still shipping fast, and most of it never shows up outside the release notes. If you want the next breakdown the day it lands, that's what this channel's for.